Hello, future school counselors. Carol Bickel here. This is week 4, the introduction and really in-depth take a look at our school data. For this week's lessons, as for the rest of this course, you can either use the data that I'm providing you in the lessons, or you can use your own school's data. Your own school's data is going to be more interesting to you because it's relevant, and it is also going to help you perhaps understand some of the emphasis that your administrators want to focus on during the school year. Couple of drawback about using your own school's data is that you have a tendency to want to fix things right away. And sometimes students in the past have been a little more forthright in their opinions on what should be done at their school. So I would caution you for that when you have your certification for a school counselor and the state certification to do so, then you have every right to do that. But until then, it's good for you to look and to learn. If you use Orange County Public Schools, examples that I've given you there, this is information that is open to the public. It's on the school's website, but they too have no obligation to give you any further help with this. They do not know that I use it for my class. It's public domain though, so I'm not doing anything that is not above board. Okay, that being said, before we get started on this, I want to show you a book by Trish Hash. She just published this year. Trish and Julie Hartline co-authored this book, and as you can tell from the title, Data in School Counseling. She was a former school counselor and was a school counselor educator training school counselors. She has written books for elementary, middle, and high school specifically, and counselors have told me that she presents things in a down-to-earth, very organized, logical way. Because like you, when I went into school counseling, I didn't go to be a data collector. However, in our profession with ASCA and a number of different organizations, but ASCA mainly, they have helped school counselors define our roles and helped administrators understand them and have given us standards. So it's one of those, let's define, let's help you identify exactly what it is that you are to do, and also what you're not supposed to do. So Trish Hatch is excellent. If you get a chance to listen to her, she's amazing. Okay, that being said, we're going to go into our lesson for this week, and I'm going to share my screens with you and go over things. I'll go over them pretty quickly because you can always ask me questions by texting or emailing me. So the first screen that I'm going to share with you is our text. And this week's Wednesday's lesson is not going to be very difficult. I think you will have ample opportunity to fill that one out without any difficulties. So let's go over this. Hopefully by now you've downloaded the template file. And from the template file, the school data summary form is the first one you're going to work with. This is a real basic form for you to get an idea of where your school is at and what your school, whether it be administrator or school decision, have focused on for the following year. So I have in this file, as I said, you could use your own school. If you do that, could you please give me some sort of access to that information, whether it's copying it or maybe giving me a link to your school's data, if at all possible. If not, and you're going to use one of Orange County's public schools, then I'm very familiar with those. So I have here 3 different schools from Orange County. Orange County is, depending on who you talk to, the 10th or 11th largest school district in the United States. And so these schools are large. It is very uncommon for a high school to have less than 3,000 students. Many of them have more than 4,000. And we have 23 high schools in our district right now. So compared to some of the districts in Nebraska, the district here in Orange County is kind of, well, it's huge. So first of all, I want to go over Colonial High School's student improvement plan. Every year here in Orange County, our schools have to create a school improvement plan. In it, they use the data from the previous year to be able to determine what their goals are going to be for the following year. As you can see, the latest plan for Colonial and the other 2 as well is 2021. The reason for that is because the school improvement plan does not get published until November of that year. It has to be proofread by all the school board members. It has to be coordinated by our district person, and all of that takes time. Plus, I don't know about your school, but some of our statistics do not come in until later in the summer. So that's why we don't have 22-23's school improvement plan. But if you choose one of those schools, Glen Ridge is a middle school, and the other one is an elementary school. Here is Colonial High Schools, and they start, all of the schools will start with a title page that's very similar to this. The next page is kind of tells you what's in it, and the 3rd page gives you an idea a little bit more about the school. Principal Hector Maestra has only been there since 2019, and traditionally Colonial has been a school that has struggled. Well, let's take a look at the school grade, and you can see. In Florida, with statistics like how many students have had been retained, their test scores or academics, of course, their attendance and their behavior, all of those things are put together into school grades. And in 16-17, they had a score of a C. In 17-18, it was better. They went from 41 to 46%. But in 2018-19 is when they launched into the grade of a B. 2021 is when we had COVID, and our schools were not graded that year. Everybody was distance learning, and they felt it was not a fair assessment for schools. So we won't have a grade for 2021. We will for 21, 22 coming up, but we just don't have it formulated as yet. Okay, I'm going to keep going down. Again, school board approval. We have a system here. If you get a D or an F on your school grade for like 3 years in a row, the state comes in and tells you how to do things. It's a very kind of a painful process for schools. School information, I might note the vision and the mission statements here. Notice their length. Most schools will try to keep their mission and vision statements short so that people remember them. If you have a long vision and mission statement, people get lost. But a short and sweet one, they'll remember. Okay, moving on. Now you've got a description of the positions of the school. Principal, of course, we know, but here's some assistant principals. And what I'm going to focus in on is Tim Flynn. He is the assistant principal of instruction. He knows stats from grades, from attendance. He knows what the master schedule is. He knows graduation rate, state reporting. He knows threat assessments. He is also the coordinator of the computer program that Orange County uses right now, which is Skyward. So their other assistant principals also have data. Depending on what kind of data you need, you may want to go back and check with the people at your school if there's more than one person who deals with data, and ask them what it means and what are the goals for the following year. Okay, again, these are all job descriptions. Deans also are involved in our schools, but they do not have the access to the data as much as the assistant principals do. So moving on down, demographic information about the school is here, 3,339 students that year. And here we get into the data that is disaggregated between 9th through 12th grade, which is what our high schools here are. And it breaks you down by grade level, and it gives you a total number of students. For example, course failure in math. We have 132 9th graders, 242 10th graders, because most of them take geometry and they just have a tough time with geometry. Level 1 on the statewide assessments. Here you can see where there's a little bit larger numbers. Those heavy duty states, high stakes, standardized tests take a toll for some kids. Test anxiety is really something counselors focus on, even in elementary school. So then you can see there's lots of different indicators. Here we have students with 2 or more indicators, like they have poor attendance, they have poor grades, they've been retained more than once, those kinds of things. If they have more than 2, these are the kids that school counselors would want to focus some time on and maybe do interventions, whether it's study skills, whether it's the importance of attending school, whether it's how to communicate with your peers or authority figures. So all of these right here are students that counselors will want to keep on their radar. Then we go down to the number of students enrolled in each grade level. And again, different categories that have been disaggregated in. And then you're going to go, this is, sorry, I'm kind of skipping around here. This is a 2021 school year. If you will go, it will also tell you the 2020, 2021. It'll go to the previous school years too. Here, it gives you 3 years worth of district, state, as it's your school, and the school you chose, and their percentage. And you can see how the school compares to the district and the state. Here is students with disabilities that I know some of you work with, and also ELA students, English language learners. All right, I'm going to skip on down. You're welcome to look over this. It breaks it down into different subject areas and how the kids are doing generally. Now, I am going to, this really breaks it down, as you can see. This is 21, here's 18, here's 19. Anyway, by subgroups, how did they do? But I'm going to skip on down to the contributing factors. This is analysis. For example, COVID in 2019, 20, and 21, it was a very big factor for our kids, and I'm sure it was for yours as well. But they will talk about factors that have influenced the outcome of the data in this section. And this would be good reading for you. There is a section in Sunday's assignment that you might find some good information from in here. Then we get down to what the objectives are that we're looking at. Part 3, planning for improvement. If you look at this very first one, this deals with social emotional learning. They did a huge survey for the whole school and using an organization called CASEL, C-A-S-E-L. I'm sure you've heard of it. They've been around for a long time. But they focus in on the social emotional learning that happens in school. They gave a survey based on CASEL's findings, and they found that only 35% of students were able to express their feelings, and only 31% of students feel a sense of belonging. Well, boom, right there is a great place for school counselors to focus in on and really do the interventions that could really make a difference for the school's culture. There's a couple of other ones as well. This one right here, this is relating to schools with students with disabilities, which some of you are working with. So that might be a goal you could plug into. This one is really for teachers, and the administration has to focus in on that. Anyway, and it goes and so on. There are additional school-wide improvement priorities that you can take a look at and see positive culture and environment. Anyway, it's just a very comprehensive school improvement plan. And our schools, it is a requirement for them to do, for you to do that every year. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to stop the sharing for this one, and I'm going to pull up Wednesday's assignment, and that is the school data summary. There are questions 1 through 5 or 6 that you can answer. If you download this and enable editing, you can write right on this to submit your this on Wednesday and get peer responses by Friday. Who in the building can help you obtain the data? Who is your data expert? Who can help you interpret the data? And this would go for district as well as even the state level. But there may be more than one person on your campus. It's more than just the principal usually. Review the school improvement plan and identify your goals. List 2 to 3 school improvement plan goals relevant to the school counseling program. And we're going to link it to student outcomes. And those outcomes are achievement, attendance, and discipline. Almost all of them fall in one of those 3 categories. Then you review the data, look for other sources about the data, like Colonial did the survey. Many of your schools may have done surveys also to find out what the needs are and where the areas are that need to be focused in on. Number 5, how does your school compare to data from other schools, including schools with similar populations to you, district averages, state averages? Number 6 is you are going to fill in prioritized data points that you will address in your school counseling program. In other words, you'd say an example is 26 students leaving first grade reading below expectations. 38 first-time 9th graders are failing Algebra 1. 7th grade students with 4 or more absences in the first 4 weeks of school. It has to be one, depending on which school you're looking at. you will be able to pick 3 areas that you want to focus in on. And that would be turned in and responded to, turned in by Wednesday and then responded to by Friday. I don't think you're going to have any difficulties with this one. I'm going to stop sharing this one now, and I'm going to pull up Sunday's assignment, because that one's there's a little more to it. Here we go. The annual student outcome goal plan. It can be one of the ones that you have done on Wednesday's assignment. Your name, please, if you're going to use your own school, please make sure your school's name is on there. And if I can have the link to the data you're using, that would be even better. Identify and describe outcome data, achievement, attendance, discipline that serves as a basis for the goal. Let's say you've got 93 ninth graders who have failed math in their 9th grade year. That would be identify and describe the outcome data that serves as a basis. So the basis would be that 93 ninth graders have failed math. So you're going to create a goal statement that focuses on a specific subset of students for whom intentional strategies and interventions will be delivered. Well, you might want to do those 93. And you could say by maybe the end of first semester, maybe the end of the year. By May 2023, 9th grade students, because that's you could even say 93 9th grade students, will either increase or decrease. So that means their numbers will either increase or decrease. If it's 93 9th graders who failed math, you want that number to decrease. So you will say decrease and describe the specific outcome to be changed. Will decrease, and the specific outcome is that they will bypassing the ninth grade math class. And then below that, you'll say by, whether it's 10%, 20%, whatever, from, and your baseline data goes back to what you wrote in here. That's 93 9th graders. So I'd say from 93 9th graders to, let's see, if you had, depending on which percentage you have, you would put then what that new number, the target data, instead of 93, maybe it's going to be 80, or maybe even more challenging, 50. So that will depend on what your percentage is. The next section is the supplemental data. And this is where I told you you could go and the reasons why the data might be have been influenced. For example, COVID may have been, and the school counselor can report that, parents report, could be a number of different reasons why the data has been influenced. And by the way, you don't have to answer every single one of these. Maybe only talk to 2 or 3 of them. And also in this section, if there's nothing listed in the informational section, at least in Orange County schools, and no one at your school is giving you input on that, but I guess you could skip it, okay? Then below here, you've got to identify the school or some systemic policies, procedures, practices that create or maintain inequities relevant to your school. You know, that's a tough one. Strategies that could influence systemic change related to the school. strategy for the failing ninth graders might be study skills, or asking teachers to do after school study sessions, or a school policy might be that math teachers have to have, I don't know, a master's degree. So I don't know. I'm grasping at straws here. So that is really up to you and your opinions on how things could be changed in an idealistic situation. The more important part comes below this, and that is student standards that are targeted. Identifying 1 to 2 mindsets or behavior standards from the Ask a Student Standards on page 3 of the National Model Book, relevant for this targeted group. And you would have both the mindset and behavior listed here, and it could be 2 different ones. List what they are here, and the students will, 80% will pass math. Students will identify 3 strategies for studying math. Those are the kinds of objectives. You want to have it be pretty specific. Below that, we talked about how Colonial did a school-wide survey of their students. You could also do a pre-intervention survey for the kids. Remember, this is a survey the students are going to fill out, not you. Nobody observing, no teacher. This is student-oriented. So it's on a Likert scale. So really through almost all the time, let's see, one statement for failing ninth graders is, or one statement you can use is, I turn in my homework all the time, or most of the time. Rarely, sometimes, most of the time, almost all the time. Another one might be, I know how to ask questions of my math teacher. Another would be, I can seek outside help when I have trouble with math. And I know the importance of understanding math concept. So they would answer these, and this data is easy to tabulate. Brief answer question, if you had, why do you think math is challenging for you? Or whatever your question might be. Those would take a little longer to assess and to get some strategies from. Below that, now we get into direct and indirect student services. Many of you may remember this from your foundations course. We're going to study it in more depth later on in this course. But direct student services are when you are doing classroom interventions, working one-on-one, small groups, those kinds of things directly with students. Then indirect student services might be collaborating with their math teacher, with their parents, doing a parent support group, finding local mathematicians to come in, and maybe an engineer to come in and talk to the kids about math. So those would be the indirect services. It says a minimum of 2, but you see there's only 1 space there. You can always add spaces to that. Think like a counselor. So, and that's Sunday's assignment. That may take you a little more time. All right, I'm going to stop sharing here. I hope this has been helpful. I know that you may still have questions, and please email or text me those questions. I have even done one-on-one Zoom meetings with students to help them understand. So please do not hesitate to ask me. Data, when I think of being a school counselor, I didn't go into school counseling to understand data or collect it for that matter. That's why people like Trish Hash Trish Hatch and your student improvement plan at your school are going to be vitally important to you. And I hope good luck with this week's lessons. And please, as I said, don't hesitate to call. This data is what your comprehensive school counseling program would be based on. It is a common language with administrators and other stakeholders. So it's important. Thank you.